we'll start. And then any stragglers who come in. And yes, we are recording, so you guys we will try to get that recording out to you by tomorrow. And we will get going here. How do I slideshow this? Okay. So hopefully no technical issues this time. Okay, so welcome to Live Autoimmune Workshop for March 2023. This is Dr. Ben, full name Dr. Benjamin Benulis, but that's a really long mouthful, and why my parents made my first name the same as my last name. They've never been able to give me a reasonable explanation. So what we're going to talk about tonight is autoimmune disease, where it comes from, like what causes it, why doctors have such a hard time diagnosing it and treating it, and what actually works to get well. So super excited. We've got some great things to share, a lot of stuff I want to show tonight. We'll go probably about 90 minutes. Just FYI, I got a lot of information to share. Try to keep your questions to the end, but we'll probably go about 60 minutes and then have about 30-minute Q&A at the end. And just yeah, we'll stick around until everybody's questions are answered. So definitely an opportunity to get whatever you have answered. Let's see. Okay, so this workshop is for you if you're open to a new perspective that your doctor has likely never given you. I can't work the door, and let's see. Okay. So this is for you if you're open to a perspective your doctor has likely never given you. You want to learn about the root cause and how to treat it. You're sick of going the medical route because you're not getting results with it, and you're open to making long-term changes to your diet and lifestyle in order to get those results. Okay. So this is not for you if you're closed-minded to new information that may conflict with what you've been told by your doctor. You want to stay on prescription medications for life. Okay, well, stay on them. You're looking for a quick fix, a pill or a powder or a potion to just fix it. And you're against making changes to the way you live in order to get healthier. So if that resonates with you, probably not the workshop for you. So you go ahead, log off. If you want to stick around and see what I have to say, cool, but just give you an idea. So let's see what we're going to get tonight. We're going to talk about the story behind autoimmune disease, where it comes from, what causes it, why the mainstream medical community such a hard time both treating it and diagnosing it. Like it's, have difficulty treating, but sometimes we have a hard time even just getting a diagnosis of what is wrong with me. And then we're going to talk how to actually heal based on real stories of myself and my students. And then at the end, we'll have an opportunity to go deeper if you're interested in getting some help with this. Okay. So who is Dr. Ben? Okay. So this was me in 2010. Believe it or not, I was not a doctor my whole life. In fact, I don't think I was until I was 35 years old. But this was me in 2010. I was working an engineering job in Austin, Texas. That's the Colorado River right there. And I look pretty good on the outside, like everything, like I'm smiling, I'm happy. But really on the inside, I look fine. I don't look unhealthy. But really on the inside, I'm dying in this picture. I was dealing with really bad chronic fatigue, really bad chronic muscle pain, really bad digestive issues, really bad skin issues, and really bad brain fog to where I could barely work. And I didn't really know what to think. I've been thin my whole life, healthy my whole life. And this stuff just kind of crept up on me over the course of like 6 months to a year in 2010. And I really didn't know what to do. And, it took a while, but eventually I was like, okay, I'm going to go to the doctor. And I really thought like, okay, I'm going to come to them with problems A, B, and C, and they're going to diagnose them. And then they're going to give me medicines X, Y, and Z. And then problem solved, I'm good. Come to find out that it doesn't work that way. Anybody else ever had this experience? Like you're pretty sure like you're gonna show up and they're gonna figure it out and they're gonna give you the cure. Anybody else? Just type me too in the chat. only to find out that that's not what happens, right? Like you go in there with the best of intentions, and not to say that they're like trying to do a bad thing to you, right? It's just like, it's just kind of how it goes down. And so, after about, 6 to 12 months of just getting the runaround and not getting answers, and like, just being passed from specialist to specialist with, oh, I think you got to see this guy. We can't figure it out. Oh, there's nothing. Your blood work is normal. All these things. I was just like, I can't do this anymore. Like I can't keep going to this merry-go-round. Now, thankfully I had insurance, so it was pretty much all paid for, but it was time consuming. I wasn't getting answers and I was pretty frustrated. And I was just like, like I just, there's like, these aren't helping me. So I got to figure this out. And I thought like, okay, well, maybe I have some rare disease that they can't figure out. And I just, I have a science background. I have an engineering degree. So I can probably, just research this on my own. And that's what I started doing. And so basically, just started like massively like gaining knowledge, like learning, and massively taking action, trying to just basically turning myself into a mad scientist laboratory. I was trying all kinds of different alternative things, which, up until that point I thought were just pure quackery, but I just sort of like got to the point where the mainstream wasn't working and I was really desperate to try anything else because it was bad. I mean, I was, I could barely function at work. I didn't really have much of a social life because I never wanted to go out. I just felt like hell all the time. And I could see that like if things continued this way, like I don't know if I'd be able to keep my job. I remember my boss was telling me like, hey, what happened to you? You used to be our, our top performer on the team, but now things really slipped off. And, if you don't get your act together, you could be looking for another job. And I was like, okay, wow. I mean, I don't know what I'm gonna do. He's like, what happened? What's wrong? What's changed? Why are you slipping? And I didn't have a good answer for him. And I really got scared. And so I had my back up against the wall to some degree. Like I really didn't know what was going to happen. And so I got to a point where I was, willing to try anything. And I remember coming across information and said, well, if you eat healthier, you more fruits and vegetables, things like that, a lot of these problems can get better or go away. And I thought, that's cool, but I don't want to do that. Like, ugh, no, thank you. Like, if it comes down to it, if that's the last thing, it's the last thing I'll ever do. But I exhausted all of their measures and I was like, okay, I said it was the last thing I'll ever do. I guess I'm going to do it, because it was like, I hit that point of what they call emotional leverage, where the pain of changing becomes less than the pain of staying the same. And so what I found was when I did that things began to shift pretty dramatically. And when I really started dialing in my diet and all of that and getting rid of a lot of the crap food and replacing it with the good stuff, like within 6 to 8 weeks, I saw a massive shift for my symptoms. Just went down by about 80%. And so I went from chronic fatigue to tons of energy. My chronic pain went away completely. My digestion got a lot better. My brain fog got a lot better. I felt like a totally different person. Like I really witnessed my body heal itself, and just got really excited, passionate about health. And so much so that within a couple of years of that, I had quit my job, sold my house, left to go back to school. I wanted to be a doctor who helped people with this kind of stuff that I couldn't get help with. So I realized along the way of doing this, there's a lot of people out there like me who were really struggling, and I wanted to be able to help them. And so I was going to go to naturopath school. I found out it wasn't licensed in Texas, so I said, okay, I'll just go to chiropractor school and function like a naturopath. Never did come back to Texas, but that's what I do now, and that's my story. So let's get into it. Like, what is autoimmunity, right? And I just want to tell this story also to just give you, like, I'm not some guy who's like, oh, autoimmune disease, that seems like a good way to make a living. Like, I was perfectly fine, working on computer chips that went into, TVs in Japan. I was doing that, and this was all out of necessity and just a desire to serve. And it's something that I've lived with myself and suffered with myself. So I know what people listening to this are going through. So what is autoimmune disease? Okay. It's what we call a modern epidemic. 50 years ago, you almost never heard of any of these diseases. Even 10 years ago when I was dealing with this, it was rare, right? It was like 13 years ago now, but there were no ads for like, autoimmune drugs on TV. And now there are, because it just keeps getting more and more and more prolific. And so what is it? According to the definition, the immune system attacks the body's own cells. So auto meaning self, immune system meaning that system that's supposed to fight disease. That's our scientific understanding of it. Is that exactly what's going on? Maybe, maybe not. And so what they do is that depending on what organ system the immune system attacks, they give it a different name, right? And so there's over 200 known autoimmune conditions. If it attacks the joints in your hands or your knees, it's rheumatoid arthritis. If it attacks the joints in your spine, it's ankylosing spondylitis. If it attacks your large intestine, it's colitis. If it attacks your small intestine, it's Crohn's disease. If it attacks your thyroid, it's Hashimoto's. And so it's the same phenomenon happening in different parts of the body, and they give it a different name, and it manifests differently symptomatically, but it's essentially the same root cause. And so estimations show that about 25 million Americans are diagnosed, but another 25 million are walking around not undiagnosed, dealing with something. So that's about 1 in 7 people. And here's the other thing is that, there's no real body count with it. Like people aren't dying from it. So it's not going to be all of the news, and it's not contagious. And so it's really hard to like make it a big, news propaganda campaign, unlike other things. So you don't really hear about it as much of a problem because people aren't really dying, but they are suffering, and they're suffering a lot, I'm sure, as a lot of you guys know. So what are the main symptoms of autoimmune disease? Okay, so the number one is gonna be fatigue. I was talking to a woman yesterday who, she, in addition to sleeping 8 hours a night, she's usually got a nap 5-6 hours a day because she's so chronically fatigued. Brain fog, inability to think clearly, muscle or joint pain or some kind of pain somewhere, digestive issues almost always. And then another thing is sensitivities. And that could be sensitivity to certain food, sensitivity to hot weather, cold weather, certain smells, certain chemicals. A lot of people are emotionally sensitive. I've found that too. So if you're listening to this and you think you're the only one, you're probably not. In fact, if you want to type in the chat box, me too, I bet you'll find that you're not the only person who's dealing with that. So this is just the front end. Like these are the symptoms. But what I want to talk about tonight is deeper. Like, how does this affect you? Okay. And this is what I've found, is that since people with autoimmune disease don't look any different on the outside, a lot of people don't take them seriously. Okay. So it's like having an invisible disease. And so, your friends just say, hey, what's wrong with you? Like, you don't look like you're sick, right? Family, same thing. Like, doesn't look like anything's wrong. Doctor, well, doesn't look like anything I can find, right? So it looks like you're just this complainer and this person who's just like being dramatic, right? And I had this, and in my relationship at the time when I was going through this, I was told, stop being dramatic, stop making a big deal about it, stop being so sensitive. What's wrong with you, right? Like that they didn't get it, right? And it was to no fault of their own because it didn't present in any outside way other than like the rash I had on my hands, as anything was wrong with me. So it was like it was really troubling to like feel that feeling of like people just don't get it. They honestly think I'm like faking it, right? And so another thing we deal with is you feel like your body's in control of you. It's like, okay, do you want to like hang out on Friday night? Well, check in with me about Friday at 3 p.m. and see if my body's up for it, right? Because your body ends up being in control of you instead of you being in control of it. It dictates like, no, not today, right? Like even though you want to, you just can't go do it. Not being able to show up 100% for the people in your life, whether it's your friends, your family, your kids, your partner, things you're passionate about, your hobbies, your business, your job, whatever. And then feeling, another thing we deal with is just feeling like we're stuck like this. Like, okay, doctors can't figure it out, our friends don't believe us, we're trapped in this like bizarro world. Like, are we ever going to get out? If this is resonating with you guys, I just want you to type 100 in the chat box. Just like 100. If you're feeling like you've been through this, let me know. Let us know in the chat. Okay. Yeah. So this is what really goes on. This is not in any medical textbook. Your doctors aren't learning about this, but this is what we really go through, guys. Okay. And so if you're dealing with this stuff, I just want you to know you're not alone and that like I believe you. Okay. And the people here believe you and we want to we want to know your story and we're not going to blow it off and brush it off as you're just being dramatic. Okay. So let's keep going here. What is the cause? What causes these diseases? So most doctors and scientists will say, well, we don't know, it's unknown. Or they might say it's genetic, right? Like it's just a genetic thing. If you have the gene, then you're going to get rheumatoid arthritis. Here's the thing with that. These diseases were like 1 in 10,000 50 years ago. Now they're 1 in 7. Okay. So I don't think that that's genes at work, right? Like it doesn't just multiply in prevalence by 100 times or more. Something else is going on, right? And now you can have the gene for rheumatoid arthritis, you can get it, but you can get it and not have the gene. You can, have the gene but never get the disease. So it's not really a reliable marker. There's something else going on. But medicine really doesn't have an answer, so they just blame things on genes or just say we don't know, right? So I mean, fair enough. I think there's no harm in like admitting ignorance, which they usually try to pretend like they do know and they don't, but at least they say I don't know, like at least they're being honest. Here's what we do know, and I've been just furiously obsessively learning about this stuff since 2010 when I came down with it, and I just had to know everything because it felt like this was something that like there should be more knowledge on. People should understand, like not only like people but like doctors as well, and like I want to understand this problem. I really became passionate about it because I was dealing with it myself. So what we do know, three things that can contribute to it: trauma, extreme stressors, and exposure to toxicity, environmental toxins. And so we'll talk about all of those. So the first thing we'll talk about with toxicity is that exposure to chemicals we've found actually in the scientific research can contribute to autoimmune disease. In fact, there's this barbaric practice you guys may have heard of in some parts of the world where they actually like inject you with toxins to try to shock your immune system into producing a response. And basically a way of like trying to poison you to make you healthier by putting toxic things in your body. And in fact, this practice is very alive and well today here in the United States of America. It's called vaccination, right? And this is this sort of like barbaric attempt to make you healthier by putting toxins in your body. And so when I first started researching the cause of autoimmunity, I stumbled upon this, that there was a link between autoimmune disease and vaccination. And I thought, oh, that can't be right. There's no way, right? This just can't be true. But I stumbled upon stuff like this. This is the HPV vaccine, the Gardasil vaccine. And what we find is that 2.3% of people who got all 3 shots over a 6-month period developed a systemic immune disease. Okay, and what's cute is that they tried to fudge the data to cover it up and said that the people who got the quote unquote placebo had also got the same amount. But the problem was the placebo wasn't really just like a saline placebo. It was AHS, which is I think is like amorphous aluminum hydroxysulfate or something like that. Oh yeah, that's what it is. Hydroxyphosphate sulfate. So it was aluminum, which is a toxic metal. Okay. And so like when they got the aluminum, they got the autoimmune disease. That's toxic. And so a lot of this information is hiding in plain sight. Like when COVID came out and they wanted to vaccinate everybody, I was like, I'm sure they're gonna be putting super toxic in stuff. And sure enough, I hear stories every day about people who developed one after the shot. They had 1 or 2 before the shot. They developed 5 or 6 after it. Their symptoms got worse, what have you. So, this is what happens with pharmaceutical drugs is they have these things called side effects that you go in there trying to do one thing to the body, but the body is a complex organism, and you can't just do one thing in the body. Like there's always going to be unintended consequences. And so when you try to modify the immune system, when you try to do something to stimulate the immune system, you have consequences. Okay. And sometimes the consequences are that immune system goes and attacks something it shouldn't, unfortunately. And so I'm sure there's people, I bet there's people on this workshop tonight who can trace their symptoms back to getting, one of these shots. I almost can guarantee it. So let's see. So that's one cause, toxicity. Stress is another one. Let me ask you this. Anybody in the chat ever go through a particularly stressful time in their life and found that that's when their they went through a stressful time, like they had a loved one die, they went through a divorce or a breakup, or they just had experienced a major loss, or just like loss of a job or something like that, and their immune system just got their autoimmune condition either started, number one, or got way worse, like flared really bad. So just type me in the chat if anybody has experienced that. Me for sure. So just so you guys know, when things got really bad, part of the problem was that I was working this engineering job, but I had these kind of closeted aspirations to be a stand-up comedian. Some of you guys know I do comedy. And so I was doing the day job of the engineering. And then at night I was doing these open mics and trying to get into comedy, and I was not sleeping. And I was of course eating horrible food and doing lots of other things, but I really pushed my body hard, and it pushed back, could not get away with it. So let's talk about diagnosis, right? And diagnosis coming from the word dia, meaning everything, and gnosis meaning knowing. So knowing everything is what diagnosis technically means. Although I like to joke that it comes from the words die and agnosis, which means two, and not knowing. So it's like a doctor gives you a diagnosis. There's two people who don't know what's going on, you and the doctor. But why is it so hard for them to diagnose you? I'm sure some people, I never got a diagnosis. When people say, oh, you must not have been sick. Well, just because they can't figure it out doesn't mean it's not true, right? That's how we get gaslit. But some people are telling me they have issues for 5, 6, 7 years before they finally go, oh, guess what? We diagnosed you. You have lupus, right? Why does it take so long for them to figure it out? Why is it so hard to diagnose? Well, here's the thing. Medicine is subdivided into silos called specialties, right? So you have, your general practitioners, but generally, if you're going to have something complicated, you go to a specialist, right? And so you have the ophthalmologist for your eyes, and you have the neurologist for your brain, and you have the gastroenterologist for your stomach, and you have the pulmonologist for your lungs, and you have the nephrologist for your kidneys, and you have all these different specialties of these guys and these gals who are really only looking at one part of the body, and they know how to either just drug it or cut it out, right? That's what they do. And so they're really not looking at the overall system, right? So if you have something like lupus, well, it's affecting your skin, it's affecting your joints, it's affecting your kidneys, it's affecting your stomach, it's affecting your brain. And these doctors are only looking at the one thing, the one symptom. They're not looking at the big picture. So oftentimes it's hard for them to figure it out because they're so tunnel vision for their particular thing. So when you have a systemic problem, and the human body is not a collection of parts, it is a sum thing. So let's see. So why is the diagnosis so hard? Okay. Well, number one, labs can't find everything, right? So they run a bunch of labs, and maybe they don't search for the right things, or maybe they do a pretty comprehensive blood panel and they still don't find it, right? But in their world, it's well, if we can't find it on the lab, if it doesn't show up on the piece of paper, it must not be real. They treat a piece of paper instead of a human being, right? And then if I was never taught about it in medical school, it must not be real, right? Somehow, if I didn't learn it, it must not be real. You must be faking it, right? They literally can't comprehend the idea that there would be someone they would meet who they couldn't figure out what was going on with them, right? So let me see, I gotta mute somebody here. So they can't figure out why what's going on, and they honestly believe that if they were never taught about it, it must not be real. Anybody ever hear this? Good news, your labs are totally normal, right? Like they ran all the labs and said, oh, guess what? Like everything came back fine, so you're fine. I remember being told this. It's like, okay, cool, but I'm not fine. So are you going to do your job and figure it out? Or are you just going to play pretend that everything's okay? Because I'm here at a doctor's office to get better, not just be told that I'm faking it. What's interesting, what I find interesting is that anybody ever watch that show House, right? Or these medical mystery drama things where it's like they come in and the patient's got some crazy condition and they can't diagnose it, but they're really suffering. And they're like, okay, I'm going to run every test. Oh, could it be this? Could it be that? They're sitting around in a room, brainstorming, trying to figure it out. Right. And they're like, okay, it's not that. It must be this. Okay, we're going to keep going until we get it. And then at the end of the show, they finally figure it out, and then they have the cure, and then the person gets better, and they pat themselves on the back, yeah, good job. Doesn't typically happen, right, guys? It's more of nah, you know what? You must be faking it. It must be all in your head. Yeah, that's what it is, because we can't figure it out. So you must be it's because you're stupid, not because we can't figure it out. Because God forbid we'd have to ever admit that we don't know something. So this is our experience. Is anybody, if you've been through something like this, if you've been told one of these things, just type me in the chat box. I'm sure some of you have been through this, guys. Come on. No, nobody. Okay. All right. So this is, been gaslit by psychiatrists. Ooh, yeah. Yep. Ooh, I don't like to single anybody else out, but the psychiatrists they do a number on you. Not to mention, not to say that there aren't good ones. But yeah. Okay. So this is the medical model, right? They've got the two things that they offer: drugs or surgery, right? And like I said, they focus on one organ system of the body, and they either drug it or they cut it or they do both. And I just think of I think of surgery. I think of Uncle Joey from Full House. Anybody watch that show where he was like, cut it out, right? It's like gallbladder's not working right. Cut it out. You're too fat because your stomach's too big. Cut it out. Appendix is ruptured. Cut it out, right? And so it's like, oh, thyroid problems. Cut it out. It's kind of a problem though. You kind of need those organs and glands. You kind of need those things. You don't want to lose them if you don't have to. They're kind of there for a reason. They do things. You can live without them. It's not a pleasant experience. What we hear from someone tonight who got many things cut out of her, and can have some war stories on that. And then we got drugs, right? And the drugs are really there to suppress the symptoms, or treating the root cause. I mean, they may go and say, oh, okay, well, it's your immune system. Your immune system's attacking you. So we got to suppress your immune system. And that way, it won't attack your joints, which it works per se, right? The immune system gets tuned down, and the joint pain may, go away for a while, but this is kind of a problem, right? The problem is you need that immune system, right? It's it gonna keep safe and keeps you healthy and fights off the disease. And I think in this decade so far, there's been this virus going around people are pretty worried about. So it's good to have an immune system. It's good to have one of those, right? But they put you on these drugs and they're not really a full cure. Symptoms get better, but don't go away. Sometimes, the drugs will do a thing where they'll make the lab work look normal. You were sick on paper. They said, okay, your thyroid's off, and they put you on medications, and then it makes all the chemicals change in the right way that makes the labs look like you're healthy. Your lab work, oh, good, we put you on this medication and your labs are better now, right? But you didn't get any better. You don't feel any better, but they made the piece of paper look better, right? And they go, oh, drugs must be working because, your lab work looks normal now. All right, right? But it's all they did was artificially manipulate the number on the paper. They didn't actually get you better, unfortunately. But they go by the paper, not by you. And this is very true, especially for people with thyroid conditions. I don't know how many people I've seen that are on like, a pile of thyroid medication. Their labs all look normal and they still feel terrible. And their doctor says, well, I don't get it. Like the medication's working. You're good. Like you're healthy. They're like, I don't feel any better, or maybe they feel marginally better, but they still got symptoms. And it's like, at that point, it's like, well, you came to us with the symptoms, you came to us with the bad lab work, and we put you on the drugs and it made the lab work get better. So the symptoms must be gone too, right? Anybody experience this? I would love to just type yeah in the chat. Let me know. Side effects. Okay. Whoa, man, especially on these biologic immune suppressant drugs. Ooh, you suppress the immune system, bad things are going to happen, right? Like you're more prone to infections, fatigue, skin conditions, all kinds of things. Long term, this can turn into cancer, right? If your immune system cancer is happening in the body all the time, and 99% of the time, the immune system just kills those cells off and goes about its merry way. But the immune system suppressed, that cancer is going to start to gestate and become a problem. I mean, you read any of the inserts for these things, they all have to say cancer's a risk. Here's another thing, is that a lot of times on these immune suppressant drugs, after 6 months to a few years, the drugs stop working, right? They're like, you're on Humira, you're kind of cruising, you're doing all right. And then like a year into it, like the symptoms start to come back and you're like, what are we doing here? The drug's not working anymore. So they're like, oh, okay, well, we got to switch you. And they put you on Remicade, right? And you're like, okay, I'm on Remicade. Now things are good. And then you're on 6 months to a few years and it starts like coming back, right? And they're like, okay, we got to switch your medication again, right? I've had people who've been on medication for so long, 10 years rolls around and they want to put them back on the drug that they were first on 10 years ago. And they say, well, it's been a long enough time, it should work again for a while, right? And they're like literally on like a merry-go-round of drugs. And these things ain't cheap either. Remicade's like 85 grand if you didn't have insurance for a year, right? For 1 year, not a cure, gonna have side effects, but maybe you feel a little bit better, right? So like these things, like, okay, I'll hand it to them. Like, maybe they get some results for some people and some not for others. Like it's not it's not like a total loss, but there's definitely a lot to consider here, right? And so like if you're on them and you're having a good experience and you're liking them and you don't want to get off them, do it, like it's your decision. I'm just here to say, okay, maybe this is the best. And like, let's entertain another idea that's worked for me and a lot of other people. So why do doctors do this? Like it's not like people think, oh, they just don't, they just want to keep everybody sick and they're evil and bad. I don't really believe that. I think that doctors, by and large, I mean, like in any profession, they're the good ones and the bad ones, and the bad ones are in the minority. I think most of them, by and large, the vast majority are very well intentioned, right? But here's the thing is that they go to medical school that really only teaches drugs and surgery. Anything that is quote unquote natural is vilified, laughed at, marginalized, made fun of. It's like, oh, they must be doing that thing because they didn't, like Dr. Ben's a chiropractor, guess he couldn't get into medical school. And also they're learning like about, like max 5 hours of nutrition in their entire medical school education, right? So like that's like 5 hours in 5 years, like not 5 hours a year even. So they really just don't know this stuff. They aren't taught it, right? This is the next thing. Pharmaceutical companies make a lot of money. Like, and they, in the past few years, they've made more money than ever. They're literally a $1 trillion industry. Okay. And so they have the largest lobby of any industry as well. So they, call the shots literally over the government. Humira is one of the most top selling drugs ever. Funny enough, when I made this presentation, it was one of the top selling drugs ever. Now that's been replaced by, of course, the COVID vaccines, which they made even more money off of, right? And here's the thing is that suppressed immune systems equals more problems, equals more drugs for other things, right? So it's like they get you on the front end with one drug, and then they have another drug to treat the side effects of that drug, and then another drug to treat side effects of that drug, and it becomes this like daisy chain of making a lot of money for pharmaceutical companies. And of course that means more doctor visits, so more, also more money for your doctor just because you're seeing them more often. And if we looked at what happened during COVID, and it's like you have this top-down authoritarian system where doctors are punished for stepping out or speaking out. So it's literally like you have to do drugs and surgery And if you don't, you like can lose your job, lose your career, lose your license, like all these things. God forbid you tell someone to eat fruits and vegetables. So they're really under the gun. So like I said, don't think they're bad people. They're just locked into it. They're really locked into a system that we think that like, oh, they have all this authority and intelligence, and they're pretty much forced to do things a certain way or get out of the way. And so this is the disease fighting model, right? It's like we want to fight the disease. We want to be a autoimmune warrior, right? We want to fight this disease. We're going to fight it, and we're going to win. And here's the thing: is that if you look back over the last 50, 60 years in America, when we tried to declare war on things, it's interesting how it works out, right? Like in the 70s, we declared a war on cancer. Well, now cancer is the #2 leading cause of death in America, and it's creeping up on heart disease to be #1. In the 1980s, we declared a war on drugs, right? We're going to like say no to drugs, war on drugs. Well, now we've got more overdose deaths than we've ever had. We're selling more pharmaceuticals than we've ever had. The drugs are very much winning the war. Like it's blatantly obvious the drugs are winning. We had a war on terror in 2001, right? Or after September 11th. Well, still got plenty of terror, right? And so there's this saying, and I'll just have you guys finish in the chat, but what you resist, can anybody finish that one? The saying goes, what you resist. What's the last word of that saying? Anybody know? Persists. Right. So what you resist. So the more we focus on what we don't want, we get more of that. So if we've got to fight the disease, fight the disease, fight the disease, then it's like we get more disease. And so what I want to propose tonight is that this whole declaring war and fighting things doesn't really work out well. So what you want to do is create the opposite. There was a politician who said, we should create a peace department. That's whose job is just to wage peace. Okay, like we might have some peace, might not have war, right? But if we have a defense and we're focused on war, we'll just get more war. So in that same model, I want you to focus instead on what I entertain you to consider, instead of trying to fight this disease, is to just focus on creating health instead. Like what's the opposite of disease? Well, it's health. Let's just focus on making more of that instead of making less of the disease, right? And if we really focus on health, well, what we focus on grows, and we can create more health. And it's funny because I was writing this passage in my book, Create Health, Reverse Autoimmune Disease Without Drugs or Side Effects. And I was trying to explain this topic in the book. And then I remember the publisher was like, well, Dr. Ben, we got to come up with a title for your book. And he threw me out a list of like 6 or 7 titles. And I was just like, it was like the plant-based way to universal healing. And it just sounded like so cheesy. And I was just like, no, none of these ideas are like, these suck. This book, like, when are we going to release this? I got to have a good title. And I was just thinking about like, well, what's the fundamental concept of the book? It's like, well, the fundamental concept is the create health concept instead of fighting disease. So I was like, let's just call the book that. And I was like, oh, finally done. Okay. So let me explain something to you. Let me entertain you with a thought experiment. If you cut your hand, right? Like you just paper cut it on rocks, whatever, by accident, you get a cut on your hand. What happens after a few days? Type it in the chat. Okay, someone writes it heals. Okay, yeah, so it heals, right? Now, what happens if you like rub dirt and sand or whatever, you pick at the scab, like what happens then? Yeah, it gets infected. Infection. Okay. So maybe it gets worse, maybe it just heals slower, maybe it eventually gets better, but like you're messing with it, right? So it like the healing process is inhibited. Okay. Now, conversely, if you put on a bandage, right? You put on a Band-Aid, you wrap it, whatever, that wound is going to heal faster, right? That wound is going to heal faster. Why is the wound going to heal faster if you bandage it? Type that in the chat. Protection, okay. Better environment for healing, no outside influence, preventing. I love these answers, right? So the bandage, you never take the bandage off and then you find the cut is healed and you go, oh, wow, bandage, you healed me. Wow, this is amazing medical technology. Wow, my hand is healed because of this bandage. No, don't be ridiculous. The bandage doesn't actually really have any healing properties, right? Your body did the healing. Your body did the job. The bandage, as you guys said, just provided a better environment for healing. No outside influence, protected it from further infection, right? It just, what it did was it got rid of the outside influences, the outside forces that would inhibit healing, snow plowed them out of the way. So we didn't do anything special to the body per se. We just gave it the optimum environment to do what it's capable of doing, which is healing itself. So this is where I want to take a leap with you guys. If you'll just thought experiment here, okay, if we can provide the optimal condition to the hand by wrapping it up in bandages, we can heal an autoimmune disease by wrapping your whole body in bandages? No. But what we can do is provide it the optimal conditions to be healthy, to create health, to heal itself, right? And how do we do that? Well, the answer is by giving it the optimal things, which is going to be, most importantly, the food you put in your face, right? So, well, I don't know how I structured this, but basically fruits and vegetables for the win, okay? So you see like a green smoothie in this picture. Here are some things I'm eating now. Bowl of peaches, big salads, big green smoothies. Okay, just crushing the fruits and the veg, okay? So let's see. So I thought I put it in here. Oh, yes, here's my whole protocol, okay? So if you've been watching up until now, you probably want to screenshot this part, right? This is like literally almost any chronic disease condition you're dealing with. You follow this protocol religiously, you will see a massive shift in your health for the positive, like that your body will just begin healing itself. And this is what I experienced. Like I literally saw my body heal itself. I told you guys that story about over how about 6 to 8 weeks, just saw massive transformation in my health. And this is what I was doing. Okay. And I wasn't even getting it 100% right 100% of the time. Like I was just giving it my best shot. So a massive shift. So breakfast, giant pile of in-season high water fruit. Right now it's March in Arizona and we've got citrus growing on every block. So I just drink citrus juice or eat citrus fruit every morning for lunch. You guys know I'm a big fan of the green smoothie. Do a giant green smoothie. Today's green smoothie was literally just like bananas and greens. Like that's and water. That's all it was. They're like really, really ripe bananas and some frozen bananas to make it cold, but like 11 bananas and like half a head of lettuce and some water. And like it was delicious. Okay. And let's see, what's a good alternative to, okay, I'll answer that question at the end. Thank you. So let's see. So, and then of course, dinner, doing a lot of fruit, big green salad, like we saw, up here. Oh man, I can't get this working. Okay. And then of course, meditating every day, exercising, several times a week. Yes, going for a walk counts as exercise. Sleep, getting enough sleep. Remember that sleep is literally the time when your body is doing nothing and resting and repairing and healing itself. So if you're not getting enough sleep, you're never giving your body the opportunity to heal itself. And I don't know how many people I talk to that eat a great diet and like don't sleep and stay up like playing Candy Crush and wonder why they're not getting better, right? So let's see. Gotta mute some people. Okay. Okay. So that is the protocol. Okay. So people ask me, okay, why, Dr. Ben, why fruits and vegetables, right? Like, what about this carnivore diet that's all the rage, where you just like eat steak and butter and get six pack abs and all your health problems go away? So fruits and vegetables have the most amount of nutrition and the least amount of calories. Okay. So fruits and vegetables are very nutrient rich and calorically poor, meaning that you can have a whole pile of them that's going to have a ton of nutrients and almost no calories. So you can eat pretty much as you want and not gain weight. You'll lose weight. If you're overweight, your weight will normalize out to what it should be, and you'll get the most amount of nutrition and the profile that best meets human nutrient needs. Okay, these are the most anti-inflammatory foods on the planet. I mean, I remember in kindergarten, the teacher told me, hey, fruits and vegetables are the healthiest foods. And of course, you know, I didn't have to go back and listen to that advice till 20 years later and realize, oh, wow, she was right. The least amount of residue, least amount of metabolic waste. And I see the questions in the chat. We'll get to them. Don't worry. I got you. Fruits and vegetables also digest and assimilate the best. Okay. Especially really ripe fruit. All right. This is optimum for digestion. The fiber and everything else makes it easy to digest. Fruit has slow burning natural sugar for best energy. Okay. So the sugar, the fiber in the fruit slows the absorption of the sugar so that there's never a sugar spike. Okay. And then let's see here. People ask me, okay, well, Dr. Moore, what about protein? Don't you get enough protein? Like you've probably seen videos of me on the internet, deadlifting 300 pounds, doing muscle ups, things like that. Plants actually have protein in them, about 10% of calories versus, you know, standard American diet, you're getting about 16% of your calories from protein. Excess protein is actually inflammatory, and most people are eating in excess. You see these bodybuilder people, and they're so puffy, it's inflammation. I mean, it's muscle, but it's also inflammation marbled in muscle. And most people are eating an excess of protein that their body actually can't process, and it ends up stressing their body and causing inflammation. And there's no known disease other than starvation that's caused by a protein deficiency. So if you're not eating enough food, yeah, you won't get enough protein, but otherwise, pretty much, unless you're eating like a diet of, you know, olive oil and cane sugar, like you're gonna get enough protein. When people, okay, another thing people ask me, okay, Dr. Ben, you're eating all this fruit. Like I see you drinking giant smoothies, like eating 10 nectarines in a sitting, 15 oranges, right? Like had some nurse on Instagram tell me to shove my oranges up my ass today. I thought it was pretty funny because I said that epidurals can cause chronic back pain. So the sugar packed in fruit affects the body differently than refined sugar. Fiber slows the absorption in the bloodstream, so there's never a sugar spike. And if you think about, okay, people that you know are diabetic, it's not because they were eating too much pineapple, right? It's because they're eating like a whole pile of processed foods, right? And so if fruit made you fat or diabetic, like I would be 400 pounds. Like my blood sugar would be 400. Like I've literally eaten 53 bananas a day, you guys. Jody, you're cracking up over here. I love it. Okay. All right. So that's that. I want to share a case study of someone very near and dear to me. She started with me as a client about almost 2 years ago, and just saw some miraculous shifts in her health, and is now an employee and is helping me coach people get their health back. I'm really excited to introduce Ramsina. If you want to take it away and share your story, we'd love to hear from you.
Thank you. It's absolutely always an honor to share my own journey here, and thank you for this opportunity. My only problem is, where do I start? I always struggle with that one. But yes, I'll take it from the almost 2 years ago when I came to Dr. Ben. What did it for me was because I had an appointment with my rheumatologist, and after telling me that I have osteoarthritis, he just said that I am. I mean, there's just no question about it. I'm going to get worse, and I'm going to need surgeries. And then when I need surgeries, to go ahead and call him. Until then, just guzzle Tylenol. Well, he didn't say guzzle Tylenol, but until then, just take Tylenol and, pain relief and everything. And yeah, that's about it. I was going to get worse, and I was going to need more and more surgeries. That, and in addition to that, I was also dealing with many other things, plenty other inflammatory issues. I had fibromyalgia. celiac, mesenteric inflammation. My mesenteric nodes were inflamed, and eczema. And I'm trying to go down the list. That's just a few.
Gallbladder?
Oh, yes, gallbladder. Oh, yeah, that one had to come out. It just had to come out. Malfunctioning gallbladder, which had numerous stones, a lot. It had to come out. I was dealing with that. And then my digestive system, my digestive tracts were really, really shot. A lot of the times I would basically throw up anything I would eat. It got to that level, and I would have to use incredibly powerful pharmaceuticals just to have bowel movement, if I even did. But they always have side effects of bloating and everything. I mean, it was really a chaos going on. And I had absolutely no energy. Oh, wow. I remember just getting off the couch so like I could go have enough energy to go brush my teeth, I had to sit on the couch and talk myself to get off of that couch. How often I wish the couch would just push me away so I could get up, I had no energy. And so I knew, oh, and I forget another one. I also had histamine intolerance, which is very, very challenging to deal with. It's very challenging because, for instance, I cannot eat bananas at all. You don't want to see me with bananas in my system. I itch like I've been bitten by 1,000 fleas. It's really awful. So my complications were really piling up. And so prior to any and all of that, every time I've gone to doctors, I've been given medications, of course, take medication. Do you know there was a time they would give me seizure medications? I've never had a seizure, ever. But they gave it to me because that might, or it could possibly help fibromyalgia. They weren't sure. But because it didn't help anything, then they had to give me something to combat that. So there is about 10 years of my life, I was in a complete, what I call like a pharmaceutical coma. Ever been in one of those? A complete pharmaceutical fog. Like I don't remember much of those years because it was medication after medication. Like the medication A had side effects. So they would give me the B to fight the side effects of A. And then A and B were having side effects. Get the picture? So yeah, there's about 10 years. I don't recall a whole lot. So with all of these issues, I ended up coming to Dr. Ben. And I was probably very difficult patient. I mean, a client, I would imagine, mostly because of multiple things that were going on with me. And doctor, we are not in a business of one thing fits all, one size fits all. No. Many of times he had to work on changing things for me. And from wishing that the couch could just spew me off so I could get up kind of thing, today, almost 2 years ago, I'm able to catch up with my 20-month-old grandbaby. That takes energy. I don't talk to couches as much. I can get up actually. And so I still have, I still have my gallbladder. Imagine that. It didn't have to come out. It's still functioning just fine. And a lot of the stones left. My mesenteric nodes, the inflammation did calm down. My eczema is only on one part, just on my left hand, and that's it, nowhere else. I still have to, I still have a long ways to go. I'm aware of that, but I'm not, I don't need medication to have bowel movement anymore either, which is incredible. So, and Dr. Ben mentioned earlier that I have had a lot of parts of my body taken out. Yeah, I have. 4 times alone, they have opened my abdomen. Can you believe that? 4 times. Um, so, and that does not, yeah, that one, and also tonsils. I don't have those either. And it just, time and time, they've done things to my body. But I've learned over the years, and no one will again open this body unless I let them. And that's just how it is. So if I have to have one stone in my gallbladder, that's all right. I'm keeping that stone. Last time they said there was only one left. Even then, my doctor said, you know, we really should take it out because you don't have a functioning gallbladder. Well, I'm just going to keep that stone. And so I've gone from all of that to where now it is my delight and honor to work with amazing Dr. Ben. And I'm just here to tell you, healing is possible. If it was possible for Dr. Ben and me, it's possible for you too. And thank you.
Well, let's all just thank Ramsina in the chat for that share, because it's just, I've, we've been working together for almost 2 years, and it never gets old to hear all your wins and just like see how
Yeah.
far you've come in this time, so yeah.
Thank you.
All right, awesome. So we're gonna just
Thank you.
we're gonna move on here. So I just want to make you guys an offer that if what you hear tonight, you're like, yeah, but I want that. I'm interested in this stuff. I want to heal. So if you want to get out of pain, get your energy back, gain control of your body instead of it controlling you, not feel like an outcast homebody anymore, feel like being social again, be able to show up in your life for your people, your friends, your family, your partner, your kids, 100%. Got to ask you, are you willing to be a renegade? Because the stuff that we're talking about, drinking giant green smoothies, eating huge salads, eating entire bowls of mangoes, right? Like this is not what we consider normal human behavior, right? But, if you want amazing results, you got to do amazing things. And so I really like this lyric by Rage Against the Machine. Renegades are people with their own philosophy. They change the course of history. Everyday people like you and me. And you may hear these stories of like my healing, Ramsina's healing, and you're like, wow, they must be special, right? Like we're just literally ordinary people, right? Just who've given their body the things it needs to do what's considered extraordinary things. But really the body's ability to heal itself has been around since as long as human beings have been around. And so, but you just got to do what's considered crazy, quote unquote, things in 21st century society to achieve that, right? So if you're willing to do what's right, even when other people may not agree with you or criticize you, if you're willing to like make big changes to your diet and your lifestyle, if you are, ready to stop caring what other people think, or at least don't let it get to you, if you're ready to live your life on your own terms in order to get vibrantly well, if you're willing to be proud to be a renegade that doesn't follow the crowd, you can achieve a level of health, vitality, and happiness that most people don't ever experience in this lifetime, have no concept that it even exists. Like when I was dealing with this issue, when I started to feel better, I didn't just get to how I felt, a year or two prior. I felt better than I had in my entire life. And I was like, wow, there's something to this. Like people got to know. Okay. And so if you're in that place of pain right now, I can just tell you that it gets better than you can imagine. Okay. So cost of fighting disease, right? 1 year, like we talked about, of Remicade or Humira or some other biologic drug is between $70,000 and $85,000 a year without insurance, right? And the thing is, that's for 1 year, and it doesn't even cure the condition, right? It has side effects, and you open yourself up to cancer, all this stuff long term, right? The investment to create health. Okay, so I have a online course called the Create Health Academy. Okay, in there I got recipes, meal plans, shopping lists, tons of instructional videos, lots of Dr. Ben goodness in there. Okay, if you go on my website, it sells for $1,000 that course. Okay, tonight I have a special offer for workshop attendees, bringing the price down to $200. I'm also throwing in what's called the Recovery Roadmap call with myself and Ramsina. Sit down with us for an hour. Okay, we'll help you put together a plan for you to implement all this, for you to heal, for you to actually write your own healing story. Normally charge $400 for that. Okay, So I'm bonusing that in. Okay, so you're looking at $1,400 worth of stuff. I'm offering a discount for workshop attendees. We're bringing that down to 200 for the call, and you'll have lifetime access to this course. Okay, and I continue to add new information to it, which makes it even more fun. Okay, so if you're the kind of person that gets discouraged, and I'll just put a link to that here in the chat if you're interested in that. You should have got an email as well with this information, but I'm just going to put it in the chat if you're interested, because we only have about 7 slots for people. So if you're interested, I recommend jumping on it. All right, whoever is not muted, I'm going to have to invite you. Mute you here. Oh, we've got a lot of people unmuted. Okay. So, and I will unmute people in a bit to do Q&A. Okay. So if you're the kind of person that gets discouraged easily, tends to procrastinate, gets distracted easily, tends to self-sabotage, has trouble sticking to things, needs someone to push you, needs a tribe of like-minded folks going through the same struggles, we can provide that for you. We have a group of renegades, and when you get this course, we will sit down, chat with you. If getting coaching is something that you need, we can discuss that. But right now, the main thing tonight is we're offering just the course and the call. We want to see you set up for success. So I put a link for that in the chat, and I put you got an email about it too. And if you have any questions about it, you can ask in the chat. We'll get to Q&A here. If you have a question you want to ask anonymously, you can just DM it to me in the chat, like send a message to me instead of to everyone. And we will just stick around until all the questions are answered. So I'm just going to start going back through and answering questions that I saw here. So someone wrote to me direct message. I assume that she wanted to be anonymous. What's a good alternative to bananas? I'm allergic. Ramsina, you're allergic too. So why don't you share on that question?
Thank you. Yes, I am allergic severely. I would say mangoes. Honestly, mangoes are terrific. And they can give you all the goodness of a banana, all the creaminess and all that and such. I'm trying to think. Yeah, that would be my best suggestion, would be the mangoes.
Oh, actually, this reminds me, I wanted to share,
Mhm.
well, I want to share something with you guys after we ask some more questions, but we actually had someone who has a crazy story healing from a vaccine injury.
Yes.
And they sent us some pictures actually the other day, which are like really mind blowing. And so I got them on my phone, but I'm going to share them on my computer so you guys can see. But I'm going to get to answering questions here. Okay, so let's see what else. Okay, I have a friend who has autoimmune disease but is allergic to tons of fruits and vegetables, but is also picky. So look, there's a few ways you can go about this. And this might be a conversation we have to have one-on-one offline, because there are people that, they're so toxin laden that they do have a lot of sensitivities. And so one thing that they can do is what's called a supervised water fast. Okay, keyword supervised. Okay, I'm one of about 60, 70 doctors in the United States or in the world who's trained to supervise a fast, wherein you consume no water. Okay, and so, you consume no food, only water, with a doctor's supervision. And over the time, the body can perform even deeper healings than it does on just fruits and vegetables. And so that's probably what they would need to do. And over time on that fast, after the course of probably several weeks, that would have to be supervised. It can be worked. There's a lot of what have yous to that, but we can have that discussion. Their body oftentimes can heal those sensitivities. Then when they refeed slowly back onto fruits and vegetables, they can handle them. Let's see. A lot of people, Ramsina, telling you amazing story.
Thank you. Thank you.
Jody asked about avocado. Yeah, avocado. Rock on with the avocados. I'm like, hell yes. I mean, don't be eating entire meals of avocados. Don't be like down like boxes of them. If you want to eat, an avocado every day, put on your salad, whatever. Yeah, rock on. There's a guy, and I will tell you, if you such a reason why not to eat a whole bunch of avocados in every sitting, there's a guy on YouTube called Nikocado Avocado, and he started doing that and just went down a bad path with his health. And not just the avocado. I mean, he started eating like entire pizzas and stuff, but like, yeah, avocado is good in moderation. But yeah, Jody, I'll have to show you some Nikocado avocados videos, and I'll just put the the link again in the chat. We got more questions. We're here till 7:30 Pacific, or whenever you guys want to be done. I want to share that that picture. Let's see. This is remarkable. I want to share this without sharing any. I had some other files open that patient sensitive. This one has no names on it. Okay, so this was a man, actually, his daughter who's in Australia contacted me. He's over in India. He took one of the Indian COVID vaccines, broke out in boils all over his body. Like you can see on his hands here, but this was literally all over his body. And so we put him on my program. His daughter actually flew him out to Australia so she could monitor him and do this. And we did this, and he was drinking like, green smoothie every day and lots of fruit, lots of greens. And in the course of about, really, I mean, even the first few weeks, things were improving, but now he's at the point where like his hands are like literally unrecognizable. Like, it's like, I see these pictures and I'm like, wow, I mean, I know the body can heal itself and I know this stuff works. It's worked for a lot of people, but I'm like, dang, like, wow. Okay. So this is what this is the kind of stuff that the body's capable of if you provide it the right conditions. So let's see, we got some more questions in the chat, a lot of wows. Someone asks, okay, provide assistance in getting off long-term steroids and immune suppressants, or yeah, so that's a good question. So I can't take you off of those, but I can help you work with your provider to prescribe them in tapering off. And that's a slow process. You want to do it slowly. You don't want to be cavalier about it. But that's something that, like, I'm happy to work with your prescribing practitioner on that stuff. They have to make the ultimate call on it. And, of course, if you're seeing someone who won't do it at all, you can find someone else who will. But yeah, that's a slow and delicate process, but definitely can be done. Okay, is going fully raw very much needed for healing autoimmune, or one cooked meal prep per day with predominantly raw? It's gonna, that's a great question. I think you're gonna heal faster on all raw than you will, but you also got to do something that's sustainable for you and works for you. So I think that, like, I mean, and for some people who are like really, really ill, like it's like they're just never going to get there still including some cooked food, at least not for a while. So it kind of depends on the person, but I would say do the best that you can. Because what you don't want to do is do something that's unsustainable and then you don't get results at all. So I hope that answers the question. Are there fruits and veggies that one shouldn't eat a lot of? I would say just focus on what's in season and fresh and ripe. Like if you're eating a lot of things that are like out of season, like if you're eating like, like peaches right now, they're really not till a summer fruit. So the ones that are out there are really grown like under weird conditions. They're just not going to be good quality. And then I would say just don't eat a lot of high fat fruits, like, an avocado a day, a coconut a day, whatever, but don't be eating entire meals of avocados or coconuts. Grains, rice and lentils, okay, I kind of talked about that a little bit. Do you have recipes for green smoothies? Yeah, actually, I have something called a green smoothie guide. Sheena, I will just I'm trying to remember what the recipe for that, I got to look up the the green smoothie guy, but like if you get my book, which I think is like $5 on my website right now, there's a bunch of recipes in there, and then there's access to like a bonus green smoothie guide as well. So definitely check that out. Okay, what is your experience with hyperthyroidism and hypothyroidism? So hypothyroidism is generally an easier thing to heal than the hyper. I've helped people with both. Hypothyroidism is probably one of the conditions I work with people all the time on. Hyper is a little bit trickier, usually takes a longer time to heal, and there's more bumps along the road. I mean, both of them get better, but I would say that like in general, hypo is kind of easier to deal with than hyper. And then I've read that you can get fiber overdose if you eat too many foods with it. Man, if you could get a fiber overdose, your boy would be like the #1 sufferer of the fiber overdose. I have never heard that. And I got to imagine that, like, I mean, I guess the only way I could get more fiber is if I was eating everything I was eating, and then I was like taking a fiber supplement on top of it, which would, I just don't think that would end well. But no, I've never heard of a fiber overdose. I've never seen it, and I've never, yeah, I don't think it can be done. But I think there's people who fear getting too healthy, unfortunately, out there. So they okay. Oh, granuloma annulare. Ooh, that's a rare one. Let me see. And I think I know it by a different name because I'm like, I think I've worked with that. And like, let me see. Okay. Yeah. You know, that's kind of a rare one. Granuloma annulare. I like it usually gets better. But I haven't worked with it too much, but I definitely talked with people who've healed it. Okay. Ramsina, is there anything, we got no more questions at the moment, but is there anything anything on your mind that you wanted to share?
Thank you. I just wanted to also like put it out there that sometimes when we're considering changing the way we eat and everything, a lot of the social and cultural aspects kind of come in the way. And yeah, we acknowledge that the path it takes work. It really does take work. But I just wanted to encourage everyone here that at the end it will be worth your while because it will change your life, and you're going to walk away completely victorious and a winner and feel better too. So it's worth.
Thank you. So we got some questions in the chat. I got asked about inflammatory arthritis. Every conceivable type of anti-inflammatory arthritis I could think of, rheumatoid arthritis, osteoarthritis, ankylosing spondylitis, juvenile rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, inflammatory joint pain, like every conceivable kind. I've worked with people who've gotten results on it. MS, yes, absolutely. So I have a really good testimonial of someone who healed MS. Let's see. I just realized that the link I sent for the course is not a viable link. Okay. So yeah, MS. So actually had a woman completely reverse MS. And what was really cool was they actually wrote a case study about her in a journal of her whole, and like everything she did, like because she kept track of what she ate, her activity level, the amount of rest she got, how much meditation and prayer she did, and it's like all mapped out in this super long case study. It's an amazing document, and she's an inspiration to a lot of people. In fact, her name's Carol, and she's been on some of these calls, and yeah, she's always like, hey, anybody who has MS who doesn't believe me, they can have my number and talk to me. Would this help someone with NALFD? Okay, so kidney disease is a little bit tricky because like obviously there's like some potassium and protein sensitivities. Oh, non-alcoholic fat. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Fatty liver disease, big time. Yeah. Um, fatty liver is actually like, it's so caused by diet, even like, okay, alcohol and diet, but like, diet as well. So yeah, fatty liver disease, slam dunk. Kidneys is a little complicated because it's like when the kidneys aren't filtering, even if you're feeding it healthy foods, it could still be a tricky situation. And oftentimes the other thing is that um, like kidneys along with neurons are a thing that just takes a long time to heal and necessarily can't fully recover. So like if they had fatty liver and kidney disease, like get the fatty liver way better. The kidneys, you might see some increase in function, but you're probably never going to get back to like fully healthy on the kidneys. And so that one's a tricky one. Like the earlier stage it is on the kidney disease, the better a shot you have at healing it. And then is age-related macular degeneration. No, it's not an autoimmune condition, but it can be just in general like a age-related inflammatory condition. Can we reverse that? I don't think so. I know that like diabetic neuropathy that causes blindness can be reversed, but the macular degeneration, I haven't heard of any of that with anybody like getting their vision back. So although we did work with one person who had MS optic neuritis, and she started to get vision back. The problem was she just loved cigarettes and junk food too much, and just, yeah, that's another story. Who do I got to mute here?
Launched today, Chris wants to go to a tech expert about early access about how it compares to the competition.
Okay. I don't know why you guys keep coming off mute and then just blasting stuff. Okay. 18% function in kidney. Yeah. I mean, like they're going to see some improvement. It's not like we write them off, but, and like definitely the fatty liver can get better, but the kidneys, like, they're a little bit trickier, but I mean, yeah, person's going to see improvement in quality of life for sure. Okay. All right. So that's it, you guys. I'm gonna, unless there's more questions, probably gonna wrap it up here. It's gonna take some time for the Zoom to let's see, for the Zoom to like compile everything, but we'll try to get the replay up soon so you can share it with your peeps and all of that. And if you have questions, you get emails from me, you reply to those, I reply to those. Okay, liver flushes and coffee enemas. Okay, that's a great question, right? Because it's like, we'll just detoxify you with a liver flush. So here's the thing. Ramsita's already laughing, right? She knows what I'm gonna say. I'm gonna tee off on this one.
Been through it.
So here's the thing, as we talked about this, like just like your hand heals from a cut, the body heals from anything, and the body has the capacity to detoxify itself. And so there's this idea that we can do like a liver flush or like a detox tea or a coffee enema, and we can basically shock the body into detoxifying itself. But really, what we're doing is anytime that we're shocking the body into detoxifying itself, it's because we're toxifying it so much that it goes, whoa, better fight this, right? Like you put coffee directly into the rectum, it's like the body goes, what's going on here? This shouldn't be here. And it freaks out, and the kidneys like dump a bunch of toxins into the bloodstream. It's really like, it's pushing too fast. Like the body has to heal at its own pace. And if you try to accelerate that, you're going to end up messing with something you don't want to mess with. So the liver can cleanse itself, the system can cleanse itself. And if you try to like push it artificially faster than it normally goes, you're just going to end up causing more problems than you try to solve. So let the body do its thing. We don't need external forces to detoxify it. The body can detoxify itself to the degree that you stop giving it toxic things. So you load up on the fruits and veg, get off the processed foods, get off the animal products. The body is like, oh, okay, now I got bandwidth to get rid of all this junk that's been accumulating in me for 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years, right? What do you suggest for parasites? That's a great question, okay? So parasites, no fun. And there's really like two main kind of routes that people go. Obviously there's like anti-parasitic drugs. Although what I'm reading about ivermectin is actually like, it's pretty safe. So I think I'm a fan of that. Just because it's like, it may not work, but it's something gonna hurt you. But a lot of the other anti-parasitic pharmaceuticals are really harsh in the body, right? Because they have to kill an organism inside of you. And then there's anti-parasitic herbs, but those are also really harsh. So what I found that people have gotten a lot of success with is what's called parasite zappers, which are essentially these things, and they look like an old school like set tape. Okay. And these things, if they like give off a certain like subsonic EMF frequency that's harmless to humans, but the parasites hate it. Okay, and they just run for the exits because they don't want to be around it. And it's like zip, 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 like you don't feel it, you don't hear it or anything. And you just have one of these and you like tape it to your leg for a while, and like basically eventually the parasites run away and they just come out of your poop and all that. Essential oils. Essential oils sometimes can help. A lot of times for the really heavy parasites, though, they really can't do the job. But I think in some cases they can help. Inflammation in the knees or fingers and acid reflux. Okay, I'm already limited in what I can eat in terms of solid food. Okay. So we talked about inflammation in the joints, any kind of arthritis definitely is eating this way can help. Acid reflux, limited number of things you can eat. Well, hey, great. You can do smoothies, right? And just blend the fruits and the greens and just bomb those things. That's going to be your best bet. Oh, okay. People want to know where the book is. I'm sorry. I'll post a link to that. Okay. So it's createhealthbook.com. Ozone for parasites. I've heard good things about ozone for some infections. I don't know the data on parasites. Can't speak to that. Let's see. How about garlic for parasites? I mean, garlic's anti-parasitic, but if you're dealing with like serious parasites, like eating a bunch of garlic ain't gonna knock it out. But I mean, it definitely can't harm you. So I think the zappers are probably your best bet. Like they're rather affordable. I think like there's one for under $50, and it's like you literally just wear it for a while, and then you don't have to worry about like, yeah. I think they're the best bet on the parasites. They're just going to be the least invasive on the body. Okay, well that wraps it up for tonight, guys. Thanks for coming. Like I said, any questions, just reach out to me over email, reach out to me over DMs on Instagram, any of that. And I'll catch you guys around.
Thank you.